Howdy Makers Church, this is Testimony Tuesday. I'm Pastor Glenn.
And I'm Mark. And this week, it's our huge privilege to welcome Araceli Henderson to Testimony Tuesday. So welcome, Araceli. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, today we have a high flyer with us, and I mean that literally. Araceli is a flight attendant with Alaska Airlines. And, you know, when she first applied to do that years ago, she'd been to two countries. She'd been to the US and Mexico, but she yearned to travel. And travel she has. Araceli, where are some of the places that you've been as your career of a flight attendant?
Well, the places I've traveled for fun are different from the places I've traveled for work. Because for work with Alaska, it's primarily national flying. But for fun, I've been to India, I've been to Israel, Australia, Belize, Paris, Japan, Costa Rica, Panama, Egypt, Bali, Sri Lanka, Guatemala, Honduras, the Bahamas, the UK.
UK, there you go. Well done, England. Well done. I'm so proud of you. Thank you.
Yes.
That's amazing.
That is incredible. That's awesome. And I know you've had a few different roles, I know, at volunteer roles at Makers since you've been here, and are currently working with the youth. And I know we'll be hearing more about that a little later. And but first of all, just tell us a little bit, Araceli, just about where you grew up and a little bit about your home situation.
So I was born and raised here in Anaheim, California, near Disneyland. I was here in the States up until sixth grade here. I was raised by a single mom, and I lived with my aunt and 6 other cousins. So there was quite a lot of us in a household. It's not the same. It's not the case for all Hispanic families. So it's just for my own family. But it was necessary to make ends meet. My mom relied on the government programs. We grew up with food stamps to make ends meet. She didn't go to school because she had to help with her mom with raising her siblings as well, but working at a burrito factory making minimum wage just didn't cut it. So anyways, after being after 6th grade, my mom made the decision to send me to Mexico with my aunts, just because financially she thought maybe it would just ease up a couple of funds, since money goes farther in Mexico.
Whoa. I'm going to interrupt here.
Yeah.
First of all, so you were living in a house with how many people?
With well, so it was.
But the reason why you think about, because I grew up, me and my dad, I was spoiled rotten. It was just me.
I know.
How many people were in that house?
Like 11.
Oh my God.
11, I know.
And your mom's working graveyard shift at a burrito factory. So she's going to send you to Mexico.
Yeah. So at that time, she thought it was the best decision at the time. So she sent me to Mexico so that I could do middle school and high school. And we own a house down there. So we have aunts, we have family. It was a good community of people, but I didn't really have a relationship with my family down there. So they were strangers to me.
And where in Mexico was this?
This was close to Guadalajara.
So it's down there.
Yeah, so 2.5 hour drive. It's a little town called El Grullo. If anyone is from Jalisco, maybe they'll know.
How many people live there?
I honestly don't know, but you can drive around the whole town. So it's pretty small.
So meaning 100 people to 500 people?
No, more than that. I mean, probably, I don't know, 3,000, 4,000.
So this is shocking to me because this is so different than what. So you were here in the US
Yeah.
and you go to this small town in Mexico, far away.
Yeah.
Do you speak Spanish? What was that like culturally?
Oh yeah. So I only spoke Spanish at home with my aunt and my mom, but my cousins and at school I would speak English. So going to Mexico and living there, when I got tested to see what grade I would, enter in school down there, they sent me back to sixth grade because I wasn't at their academic level in Spanish.
Mm.
So I had to learn Spanish, learn to read, write, and everything. So I felt out of place
Mm.
because my Spanish wasn't very fluent and I got made fun of because, I look Hispanic, but I'm not very fluent. So I had to learn. And I mean, it took me probably a year, but you're being submersed in that culture. I was able to, learn faster than I think being here and just going to school and learning in classes.
Was it you that
And
were
when you, yeah.
telling me whether it was the banana illustration or what? No, that wasn't it. That's a movie I watched. Okay, never mind.
But there was that sense of just kind of feeling like you didn't really belong, or just struggling with that, and just sense of being lonely when you were first there.
Yes, because I had just met my grandma that time when I flew in, and then my mom was like, okay, you're gonna stay here now. So everyone felt like strangers to me. So I had to develop a relationship, and I didn't feel close to my aunts and my grandma, and even the cultural, the way the food, my mom would cook food here, but over there my grandma would make tortillas. We had a farm, so she would milk the cow and it was fresh milk, and it tasted horribly to me because I'm used to the milk here in the US. So that's, very rich and thick, and I wasn't a fan. So I had to get used to and, be polite and eat whatever they would give me, and which I love our food. I love everything about it. But, as an 11-year-old or 10-year-old, you're picky. You don't eat everything. So it was just, I had no other choice. So
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I really can't. I mean, what is culture? And then what was religious life, spiritual life down there? What was that like?
I grew up Catholic, and all, my whole family is Catholic. And in that small town, it's so small too that, well, I say small, it's probably bigger than when I'm describing it, but everyone knows your business. And, being in the Catholic Church, at least down there, they would bring different images, different
Like statues?
Different statues of different, angels, different Virgin Marys, and saints, different saints. So you would have, you would host it and have it in your home. So you would build an altar, and then you would, place the image there, and the statue.
That's like my telenovelas that I watch.
Yeah, so exactly.
Absolutely, man. They're sitting there burning incense to these things and candles. And so you did that.
Yes, and we would do pilgrimages, and we would just do all these different traditions.
See, left to myself, I could do that, but I can't. But like the bells and the whistle. So anyway, so your relationship with Jesus at that point is like,
I didn't really have a relationship with Jesus.
Okay.
I knew that we had a God. I just didn't really quite know a lot about it. I don't recall ever reading the Bible myself or with my family at all. We would go to church service on Sundays, which was very long and boring to me at that time. And just even the thought of having to confess my sins to another human being just seemed silly to me. And I was raised with a lot of guilt and shame, and you know, it was like, well, if you don't do this, God's going to punish you, you know. So I thought like, God punishes a lot. And, you know, if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, all eyes are on me too. So it was a very, very different than, I guess, now that I am a Christian and I don't practice all those traditions. It's I don't know, it's so different.
And I know you mentioned too a little while ago that there was some kind of I don't know, hypocrisy that really kind of troubled you, and this can happen obviously in every single you know church in any denomination, but that kind of struggle or hypocrisy between you know what was happening on a Sunday, but then also what was happening the rest of the week. And I know that you know you talked about you know, so some of your uncles, you know, and they're either sort of alcoholism or abusiveness or that kind of thing, and that kind of that tension or that struggle between well, what difference, you know, this is not making any difference, you know, the Sunday is not making any difference to the rest of the week, kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's different. So yeah, we weren't practicing what we were, you know, supposedly believing in our faith, because there was a lot of hypocrisy there, and you know there was unfaithfulness, there was lies, there was abuse, you know, alcoholism. I mean, you name it, I've seen it around in my family. And I just I think that alone made me push away from even pursuing a relationship with God, you know, 'cause I didn't want to have to be, you know, I didn't want to have to abide by all these rules and pray all these prayers and rosaries. And, you know, I felt like, we have to like earn our forgiveness. That's what it felt like. And I know that's not true, you know? So.
Wow. So now we talked earlier, you came back to the US after you graduated high school.
Yes, I always knew I wanted to come back. I enjoyed my experience in Mexico. I think that I am fluent in Spanish and I appreciate my own culture more because I lived there and I had that experience versus just living here. So, but I knew that I wanted to continue to go to school and I wanted to pursue a career and better myself. And being in Mexico, there are opportunities, but we didn't have other relatives living in different cities. And for me to go to a university, I would have to move to a bigger city, and moving alone, my mom was not having it. And, you know, financially, I would have to work and put myself through school as well. So it just made more sense for me to come back here in the States, where I had my aunt, the same aunt that I lived with back in the day. I lived with her. And when I came back, I got a job right away. So I worked at Knott's Berry Farm and I went to Cypress College. I did not have a car, guys. I did not know how to drive. So I relied on public transportation. So that was, you know, so I was estimating giving myself enough hours to take the bus, to go to work and to go to school. So it was a struggle, but
I'm so impressed. I am. But you know, I've got to ask, if you work at Knott's Berry Farm, do you get to ride the rides for free?
Yes, we do. And I do not like roller coasters, so.
Neither. Oh my. So then but you love the hospitality industry and you want to get involved with that, and you're studying that, and opportunities arose for getting on with Alaska. And tell us about what happened next. There was some major earthquake in your life at that point.
Yes. So after I got hired with Alaska, I was 21, and you know, I still lived with my aunt, and then eventually I met someone, and I moved in with my boyfriend at the time, and we eventually got married. And that same month that I got married, I actually had gone to the doctor prior, and they noticed that I had a lump on my right side of the neck. And when I came back from my wedding, 2 weeks later, I had surgery. And then a week later, they they read me the results of the biopsy, and I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So I was 27 years old at this time.
Wow.
And
Wow.
yeah, so
Terrifying.
cancer, yeah, cancer, I equated that to death. So I thought I was going to die. And I didn't really know a lot about cancer. I didn't really know people that were going through cancer at my age, at least. So it was very new.
Wow.
And at that point, I had started going to Calvary Chapel in South Bay, probably a year or so before I got diagnosed. So that, I mean, really brought me closer to God through that whole experience too, because it was hard, and it was hard on my marriage. It actually, I think that with big events like this, either draws you together or draws you apart. And to us, it drew us apart, unfortunately. And
that is so common. Yeah, it's very common for cancer to cause a divorce and things like that.
yeah.
Now, you had mentioned, like I said, we talked earlier about this. You had a dog, right?
I did. So I know. So God works in mysterious ways, of
I
course.
love it. I love it.
I didn't grow up with animals, with dogs, but my ex-husband at the time, he did. And one of my friends called. I remember it because we were coming back from UCLA from from getting a second opinion for my cancer, and my friend was headed to work. She's a flight attendant, and she called to see if I could take the dog in since she had to go to work, and she would, take it to a shelter when she came back. So this is a Westie at the time. She did not look like a Westie. She had big nails. She was in rough shape. So we took her in and we took care of her. And I think when my girlfriend came to try and take her, like 4 or 5 days later, the dog literally stood right in front of me and protecting me from strangers. And so my heart melted, and we had to take her in. And at that apartment, we weren't allowed to have pets, but this dog did not bark. She was very quiet. So nobody actually knew we had a dog at the time. And she was the best gift that God could have sent, because if you've ever had cancer or are struggling with cancer, it's really nice to have, a support. It is an emotional support animal to get you through.
That's awesome.
And it sounds like, so as well as the dog, it sounds like there was just your support system just through Calvary Chapel, and then your mom, obviously, and then there was also a flight attendant's Bible study.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, it's called Wings. They still have a couple of them throughout California, but the one I attended was a small group. We had about anywhere from 8 to 10 women, and they were very awesome. I mean, they helped me, encouraged me, prayed for me, and it was
Beautiful.
a really good support system.
So you kind of came through, the surgery and chemotherapy and radiation and all of that, and then obviously, as you said, sadly your marriage came to an end. So tell us just a little bit about you put in for a transfer to San Diego, and how did the connection with Makers and all of that kind of happen?
Yes, so I was going through my divorce, and I was living with my sister, and I was only moving in. I was only living with my sister temporarily, so I knew I wanted to get my own place. And at that time, San Diego, our base had opened up maybe a year or two, and I had never considered it, but I put in my transfer around December of 2015. And then I got a place here in San Diego probably a week or so later. So I got an apartment, and I brought my dog with me. Well, I wanted to bring my dog with me, but the next day after moving in, I had to put her down. because she was sick and her tumor burst, so we had to put her down. So that was really hard.
Gosh.
But anyways, through that, living alone in San Diego was hard for me. So I, started looking for churches, and I had met a couple of friends. I didn't really have a big network of friends. But a couple of the girls that I work with were going to Makers, and at that time it was that warehouse in downtown. So that was the first time that I went to Makers, and I liked it. I wasn't very consistent in attending, but that felt like home.
Sure.
And I eventually made the leap and said, okay, I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to go every Sunday, and I'm going to try and be part of, volunteering and get more involved, because I felt like that's what I needed. So.
Mm-hmm. And youth work, obviously you had some different kind of volunteer things, but then you kind of focused on just helping with the youth ministry, particularly with working with the girls in the youth ministry. Is that right?
Yes. So I joined the youth group last year. So this was after the merge, and yeah, it's been really great. Ashley is my partner in crime. So Ashley and I both lead the youth girl ministry.
Yeah.
And we do devotionals with the girls on the Bible app. And we also are trying to meet once a month at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how to phrase this, but what are some of the girls, or what are the challenges that the girls are faced with now? I mean, I'm so old, all this stuff, I can't imagine the pressure because of social media and all that other stuff. So what are some of the challenges the girls are faced with this day and age?
I think in my opinion, I think it's a lot of identity crisis. And, you have all these apps and different people that you look up to, and you're constantly comparing yourself and wondering whether you're good enough, whether you're worthy, or you maybe are struggling with knowing who you are. And I think that all is based on the lack maybe of relationship with Jesus. So if we can help the youth in really knowing who they are in Jesus, then I think that builds a really strong foundation, and they're not easily swayed into believing lies or believing that they're something that they're not, because we know who Jesus says we are.
Yeah.
So
I just cannot thank you enough just for focusing on that. I'm just really encouraging girls, particularly just to really know who they are in Christ and to find their identity in Christ, because if they truly know who they are, and I speak to myself as well, in the sense of it's knowing who we are in Christ, that then informs every decision that, say, these girls make, and every choice that they make, and I know just kind of how important that is. And as a father of a 19-year-old young woman, I just know how important that is, with all of those kind of pressures that there are these days, just to really just find their identity in Christ. And even this morning I was just thinking of that great Lauren Daigle song called "You Say," and it's what God says about us is what matters, that above all, that's been in my sort of head this morning, even as we were just preparing for this
I love that
today.
song.
So yes. So thank you for what you're doing. Yeah.
As always, the clock waits for nobody, so we got to start wrapping this up. But Araceli, tell us about some of looking ahead. What are some of your dreams for the future? I mean, and how can people become a part of the youth ministry and the Christian yoga? You do Christian yoga Mondays, right? So
Yes, Mondays at 6 p.m.
say that again. When is it?
Mondays at 6 p.m.
Okay.
I am doing Zoom, but I also am starting to meet at the courtyard at church. So if anybody wants to join, just go to community groups and sign up. For the Makers, you can follow us on Makers Youth on the Instagram, or go on the Makers website and send us a message.
And you, where's your next travel adventure going to take you?
Well, I actually am going to Honolulu tomorrow for
there
work.
you go.
Yes. So I am looking forward to hopefully surfing out there, since it's been a very long time.
Yeah. Oh God. And I know, I just cannot, I just keep thinking, Glenn, as you and I have these conversations, just how varied and different people's journey to faith is. For some people, it's kind of like a Damascus Road experience, a kind of instant thing. Other people's journey has kind of just been a gradual, just Jesus gradually drawing someone, to himself, and and also sometimes, like you were saying, Araceli, just the hard experiences of life, the experiences that you've had, sort of the, growing up experiences, or with the cancer as well, those things as well, which can also, in a strange way, be used by God to draw us to himself. And I've also been struck during these weeks, of how many times it's because of a Christian friend has invited us to church, when we were still distant from God. And that has been a constant thing. So I'm just really encouraging us all just to invite people to church, because you never know where they are in their journey and how important a step that might be. And those people, those friends that first maybe brought you to Makers. And so I think that's a really, really important thing, just to encourage us all to make sure we keep, just being open to inviting other people, to church, because that could be a really important step. So, yeah. Gosh, thank you, Araceli.
This was fantastic. Can't thank you enough for talking with us today. I don't
thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah. Gotta say goodbye. Have a great suffering trip to Hawaii tomorrow. So
I know I have to work,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you
for all you're doing, Araceli, for the youth and the young people. Thank you.
Bye.
God bless you. God bless you. Thank you. Bye bye.